when do you stop fighting?
Right.
I would say this. First of all, don't raise garbage issues. That's one of the ways you can stop fighting. It's odd, but I've had this come up in a couple of recent cases actually. One parent wants to do some kind of strange haircut, like a mohawk or something like that, and the other parent says no. Don't, I mean, either agree to it or don't agree to it. But if it happens, that's not something to file a motion about, because it would just, I don't know, the court is going to see that as wasting the court's time.
You had this in your own case.
I did have this in my own case.
Only she didn't ask. She just did it.
Yeah, she just did it.
Yeah, and essentially the kids ended. Well, we think what happened. We don't even really know. We've never talked to her about it, but the kids were real little. But your kids came back with essentially shaved bald heads, and at the time we couldn't figure out what the heck. Why are the kids shaved bald? And then it occurred to us later that what had happened was they had shaved each side of the head to create a mohawk and let them have a mohawk during their time with her. Right. So we had week on, week off at that point, and then they just shaved the mohawk off when they sent the kids back. So probably in her mind, sending them back completely shaved was better than sending them back with a mohawk. But in our mind, it was like, holy cow, the kids are completely shaved. Why in the world would you do that? Yeah. But haircuts are not really a legal issue.
Right. So garbage issues like, so-and-so was late for the pickup or the drop off, or should I pick them up at school? I have a couple that's, one parent wants the child to stay in the AM/PM program until it closes, and the other wants, the other parent, the non-custodial parent, wants to pick the child up at school so they can have the extra time. And the court orders say that the child should remain in the AM/PM program, and it's like, why would you? What difference does it make to you if the child's picked up from school or from the AM/PM program?
Right. Whether the child's picked up at 2 p.m. or 6 p.m. makes no difference in your life. If it's the other parent doing the pickup. Right.
So why not just let that go?
And that was a lot of the ways that we stayed out of your ex-wife's world. Is we drop the kids off. If it's not our day to pick up, then whatever happens.
Right. So think about this. I think an important issue to bring up is if you suspect, and you have good reason to suspect, that there's some kind of abuse or neglect going on, some very serious issue, you can file a custody motion over that. I think it's appropriate sometimes for the non-custodial parent to file a motion if they have done what they're supposed to do and they've established a good parent-child relationship, and the child's now progressed to an age where it's more appropriate. Now, it's appropriate to request more time at that point, and I wouldn't have any objection to that. But stay away from the garbage issues and try to stay out of court as much as possible, because they don't want to see, you don't want your case to get a reputation as, oh gosh, not this case again.
Well, and when something is filed in your case, avoid the desire to feel like the judge needs to know the whole thing.
Yeah,
the judge does not need to know. Like, every single time you go in front of the judge, they don't need you to rehash the entire case.
Right.
And just something that you said, if there's a custody issue, or if you think that there's a problem with the safety or well-being with the child, you have no problem filing a motion. But what I would say is a little bit further than that, like, what makes you think that? You have to look at what your reason is for thinking that. If your reason is because every time the kid comes back from the other parent, they have a bruise on them, okay, that might be a valid reason. But if your reason is, just because I know this person and I lived with them, and there has to be abuse going on, that's going to make you look bad to the court. Because I always say the court isn't going to give you an order based on what you're afraid is going to happen.
That's
The
true.
court bases their orders on what's actually happening. So if you have a situation where you're suspecting, abuse or something like that, I mean, really, you should consult with an attorney in your state. But I think for most of our clients, Thomas will usually say, start with child welfare so that you can at least even figure out if there is something, if the authorities feel like there is something dangerous going on before you go into the court and ask them to make an order.
And the only caution I would, if you do that too many times,
Right.
it's gonna look bad.
We have cases where that happens too, where you go in and they go in front of the judge and there's been 6 child welfare reports from one parent on the other, and child welfare never finds anything wrong. Then the court's going, okay, well, I got a parent creating
Right. Well, there's
problems.
there's a statute that actually says that you can get attorney fees for that.
Yeah, in California.
In California,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know about the other states.
Yeah.
But in general, things like house rules,
Right.
bedtimes,
Yeah.
diet is
Yeah.
a frequent garbage issue that we see.
Right.
Medication, try to reach agreement as much as possible. Be flexible and be solution focused, because you don't want to continually be bringing this matter before the court over and over again.
Right.
And you're absolutely right about the in your comment that the judge doesn't need to know every single detail.
Right.
I find in general what they really want to know is, number one is the child safe? Okay. Once we pass that threshold, then it's really, when do you have time to parent? And what is your schedule?
Right. And what creates stability and continuity for the child?
Yeah, and they don't really need to know who did what to whom as much as, how is this child doing, and and are these basically adequate parents?
Right.
And that's a much shorter story than, on such and such a date, he, he let the child stay up all night and fed him sugar and.
Right. Right, and every last detail of what's happening. Yeah. That's definitely a problem, and people definitely do try to rehash that. And so what I really try to emphasize with clients is like, like Thomas said, when do you stop fighting? Right now. and I'm not saying don't fight for yourself and don't fight for your kid and don't fight for what's right. That's not what I mean. But what I mean is take responsibility for your part in it. Because if you're fighting and the other person's fighting, then all the court can see is 2 people fighting.
Right.
If you take responsibility for your part and you just let the other parent attack you, then usually what will happen is the court will see that person as just attacking the other parent, not taking responsibility, and not,
Absolutely right.
Yeah, but what a lot of times what people tend to think is, oh my gosh, if I don't respond to these attacks, the court's going to think that it's true.
Right. Yeah. And honestly, in some ways, it's the Seinfeld principle. It's the George Costanza principle of, a lot of times it's the opposite of what you think.
Right.
A lot of times what you should do is the opposite of what you do, what
Right.
you want to do, and what you think you should do.
Right.
And in general, the court wants you to be fairly brief
Right.
about the facts,
Because they have a lot of cases.
because they have a lot to read, and the court doesn't want you to. The court wants you to resolve issues, and the court wants you to get along and cooperate with your co-parent.
Right.
Is this problem so bad that you're willing to go through an adversarial process in which you write nasty declarations against each other and basically get up in court and have your attorneys just crap all over each other?
Yeah.
If that's the experience you want to have.
Well, and it's
Yeah.
interesting because a lot of times you come out of court and the client's like, well, you didn't get to say much. The judge didn't listen. The judge didn't da-da-da-da. Or
Yeah.
even self-represented parties will say that. The judge wouldn't let me talk. The judge didn't say. And the question is, did you get the result you wanted out of the court orders? Well, yeah. Okay. Then you won. Then, because the court is not about being heard. It's
Right.
not about telling your story. It's not about making the judge understand everything you've been through.
Right.
It's about getting the order you want from the court. That's it. That judge doesn't go home at night and ruminate about their 3,000 cases and how one person is such a jerk or not, or behaviors or what. They don't, they're simply there to make those key decisions in the case. If you want to be heard about all the crappy things your ex has done, find a coach, find a therapist, go to your best friend, talk to your mom.
Find a good bar.
Whatever it is for you. But, that's not going to, that's not the purpose of your judge. And when you start to try to do that, you end up actually shooting yourself in the foot and not getting the result.
Look at it from the court's perspective.
Right.
That judge has to figure out all these little details about your case and craft some kind of order that micromanages their behavior. They can't really do that, and they're not inclined to do that. What they like is they like to see cooperation, and they like to not see you at all, if possible.
Yes, and if they are going to see you, they want you to take responsibility for your part in it. I know
Absolutely.
I've said that at least half a dozen times this episode, but I'm going to keep
So
saying
should
it.
they take responsibility for their own?
That's what the court wants to see. Even if you a parent that has had problems like drugs or alcohol or like whatever. Honestly, we've had cases like that where, really good people, obviously, we all have things we struggle with, and we've seen really good parents really struggle with certain issues like this. And honestly, the court doesn't say, oh, at one point you were in alcohol, so no relationship with your kids for you. The court wants to see you say, hey, I took this seriously. I got an AA. Here's my sobriety date. Da, 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 da. Then you're the court's hero. Then the court's like, man, look what this person has overcome. Look what they've been able to do. This person needs some parenting time with their kid.
Right, and then they turn to the other party and go, what's wrong with you for filing this motion?
That's absolutely right.
The kids are doing great. What's wrong with you?
All right, so that'll wrap up today's episode for us. If you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to like the video and hit subscribe so you get notices of new video releases. If you are listening to the podcast, wherever you're listening to us, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, whatever it is, please rate and review us and subscribe so that you find out about future episodes. You can also go to our Facebook page, which has both law offices of Thomas D. Ferreira and Divorce University
That's good stuff
online.
right there.
To follow. And you can see the other podcast episodes at divorceuniversityonline.com in case there's other topics you want to look at or find more information about. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
We'll grow in